Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. And yeah, thank you very much for joining our third Pebble webinar of the year. This time is about grow your business in schools or nurseries this autumn. I'm Val, B2B growth lead at Pebble, and yeah, I'm super excited to be here with TEDx speaker and award-winning trainer, Caris Canelli. Today, Caris will be sharing industry-leading insights on how to approach schools and nurseries this term. So yeah, without further ado, Caris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Val, and thank you to all the team at Pebble for having me in this evening. And thank you to all of those of you who have managed to make it live as well. So, in just 1 second, I will share my screen and then we will get started. So, do make use of the chat box while you're here. Let's keep it as interactive as possible. I'll just ask you all to mute yourself because there's quite a lot of you, which is amazing, just to make sure we don't get any interference in the background. But feel free to make use of the chat box. I'm just going to bring mine up now so I can see what people are saying, and then we will get started. So hopefully you should now be able to see my screen, and let's just make this nice and big. There we are. So let me know in the chat if you are already aware of me and my methods, whether you're brand new to me, because I'm going to be sharing with you actually some new content this evening, so that I am sharing with you my strategies in a new way to make it entirely relevant for this time of year. And particularly as we go into a little bit of a new era in education, if you like, because we've just had a change of government, and with policy changes, politics, different financial climates, we inevitably move through different eras in education. So it's actually quite an exciting time to be approaching schools and nurseries. But if this is how you're looking to grow your business over the next academic year, I'd say it's quite a crucial term for you to be thinking about starting approaching your schools and nurseries now, even if you're not looking to make sales until 2025. So we'll talk a little bit about that this evening. So as Val said, I recently had the privilege to get on a TEDx stage and talk about my kind of concept behind sharing your skills with schools to future-proof your communities and have a bigger impact on children's lives. And it's a thing that's like really, really, I'm really passionate about it because when I stood on that TEDx stage, I shared my story of having been a really, really shy child in school who gained all her confidence from extracurricular activities, and how brilliant it is that we now have so many passionate, diverse children's activity providers across the sector getting their business into schools and nurseries to reach those children that you can have a greater impact on whatever you do, whether that's helping them with their well-being, helping them with their physical activity, helping them with their mathematics skills, whatever it is you are helping children with, you are making a difference in their lives. And the really powerful thing about getting into a school or a nursery is you're reaching a new audience. It's powerful for your business because it's a great marketing tool. It's powerful for making that impact on those children's lives because there are children that probably would never get the chance to come to your community classes, and you're actually going to them. So that's why I love it. That's why I love teaching this stuff. I'm all about that kind of ripple effect, if you like. Now, I wasn't always a trainer for the children's activity industry. I spent 10 years trying and testing every different method I could possibly think of to get my dance business into schools and nurseries. And before that, I was a primary school teacher. So I'm able to bring lots of different kind of experience in the education activity sector to you. And it's based on over the last 5 years working with hundreds of providers across the sector in all sorts of different niches to help them to get into schools and nurseries, whether that's activities, services, products. Some people are more kind of education providers, some are therapy providers, but lots of activity providers like yourself. So do let me know in the chat box, what do you do currently? What are you looking to deliver into schools and nurseries this year? And these were some of my parting words at that TEDx talk. My daughter was 16 weeks old at the time. I had my fingers crossed and my toes crossed that she wasn't going to do a TED talk of her own during the performance. Luckily, she didn't. She actually slept, which is amazing. But my closing words were, imagine a world where every child is actually excited to go to school and the positive ripple effect that could have. How amazing would it feel to be a part of that change? That's what keeps me going in my business, and I'm sure you have a vision for your business as well. But tonight is all about growing your business into schools and nurseries this autumn. And I mentioned a little while ago that autumn is going to be crucial for you because this is all about building a stable business. Lots of providers tell me they want financial stability, they want a more consistent and reliable income, and that's why they're looking at partnering with schools and nurseries, whether it's going to be the bread and butter of your business or whether it's just going to simply be an additional income stream. There's lots of different reasons people want to approach schools and nurseries. Some people want daytime work for themselves or for their team, for example. Other people want a direct strategy now. They've been relying on word of mouth for so long. And now they want to actually take control a little bit, get some more work out there. So lots of different reasons, but essentially building a stable business is going to help you stand the test of time in education when things inevitably evolve. Okay, new Labour government looking at some form, some kind of curriculum reform, and lots of different changes that are going to hopefully be for the better in schools. If you start embedding yourself in the life of your local schools and nurseries right now, who is the person or who is the company that each school and nursery is going to think of when they need support with implementing some of these changes that are inevitably going to happen? So it is an exciting time to get your business into schools right now, but there's also a bit of a marketing lag that people need to be aware of. We're generally dealing 1 or 2 terms in advance for that regular weekly work when you're working with a school. So anything you do right now is going to benefit future you in 3 to 6 months' time. So if you're looking for January or April sales, you actually want to start the ball rolling now. So in tonight's training, we are going to talk all about how you can discover which school and nursery offers are actually working in 2024. This is based on the successes in the Approaching Schools Academy. That's my CPD accredited professional development program. And this is what's working for those providers in lots of different diverse niches. 5 reasons schools or nurseries have been ghosting you and what to do about it. 5 years ago, I set up the Approaching Schools Challenge, and it's been multiple events since then that we've been running the challenge. And the whole reason that started was because dance teachers who I was working with at that time were telling me that they couldn't get a response from schools or nurseries. They were trying everything. They didn't understand how I'd managed to get my dance business into schools and nurseries. Would I help them? I came up with 5 reasons when they showed me what they were doing, 5 reasons their campaign weren't really working, and 5 things they could do to change it. And ended up teaching that in a 5-step course back in 2019. And that's become what the Approaching Schools Challenge is today. We're actually running that challenge again next week. You'd all be very, very welcome. Stay relevant as a children's activity provider in the ever-changing world of schools and nurseries. This is about getting prepared now as the UK educational landscape is set to rapidly evolve, as I mentioned, but I'm going to talk about how you can make sure that you stay relevant and actually giving you some real deep insights that are research backed into this. And what's been possible for business owners who formed long-term valuable partnerships with schools and nurseries, and how you can too. So just to give you a bit of inspiration, because lots of you are in lots of different niches, and you can draw inspiration from other like-minded people. So let's see who we've got then. So Emily is doing French and Spanish clubs. Jack is doing multi-sports clubs. Holly is doing music and movement classes. Kelly is doing Role Play Village, amazing. Imogen, French clubs. Lydia, dance classes. Nicole, toddler and children's yoga. Liz, I am from Get Out, a forest school, amazing, brilliant. And Alan is film schools. Do you know the great thing about all of you that are here tonight? There is not one single niche out of that list that I have not worked with. There is not one single niche that I have not supported to get into schools and nurseries. So that's quite exciting, because you might be thinking, oh, she got a dance business into schools. What does she know about getting my business into schools? Actually, over the last 5 years, I've learnt a thing or two about getting hundreds of different niches into schools and nurseries as well. So don't worry about that. Your office. This is a great place to start, but you're going to be wondering what's actually working right now. If education evolves all the time, every time we get a new government in, every time there's a some form of crisis or something's happening and new policies get implemented, then how do we know what works now and what doesn't work now? This is important, right? I may have left teaching a little while ago, but all my team that work with me inside the Approaching Schools Academy are also former key decision makers in schools and nurseries. And lots of the people joining us in the Approach Schools Academy happen to be former teachers currently leaving a teaching career as well. So we know what is currently working across the board, really. And I think it's important for you to know this before you reach out to your local settings, so you're not wasting your time. So these are the offers that are currently working, and it will depend on what you do and how you deliver as to how well this will work for you. So an assembly is really good for you if you're going to be delivering clubs. The reason it's good for you if you're going to be delivering clubs is because you get all the children really, really excited about what you do. It's also really good for you from a time point of view. Who here is so busy they don't have much time to work on their business and deliver extra sessions? If that is you, an assembly, you can get it done in 20 minutes and you can see pretty much every year group or maybe a whole key stage, something like that. So assemblies work quite well. When I was a primary school teacher, if you'd offered me an assembly, in fact, somebody did, if you'd offered me an assembly, I would have snapped that offer up because for some reason, whoever was organising the assembly rota for the teachers in that school was not the same person that was organising the playground duty rota for teachers in that school. And for some reason, on a Wednesday morning, I ended up with no break until lunchtime. I'm not talking about eating tea and biscuits in the staff room. I'm talking about literally no comfort break, nothing. So I would have bitten your hand off if you'd offered to come in and do one of my assemblies. And in fact, I did let this lady give out some flyers about her half-term holiday club, and it was a win-win situation. But assemblies work well for that. Assemblies also work quite well if you've got something one-off to sell. Now, I'm not going to suggest that anyone sells anything as a one-off. It actually, when you follow these strategies, it can be just as easy, if not easier, to sell something a little bit more longer term to a school or nursery. It's more valuable to them and it's better for you in your business in terms of predictable profits. But if you are looking to do something one-off and you obviously don't want to give away a workshop for free because that's what you want the school paying you for, do an assembly, okay? Because that's not what you're eventually going to be selling. Demonstration lessons work really, really well if you're looking to do something in curricular time. So maybe you're looking to do some specialist sports lessons. Maybe you're hoping the school is going to fund you with their PE premium. Perhaps you want to offer lessons as part of PPA cover, which is teachers planning, preparation and assessment time that all schools have got to cover. Whatever reason it is you want to go in during curriculum time for your paid work, good idea to offer perhaps a demonstration lesson, a mini taster of what that might look like with one class. Okay, if they want it for every year group, they need to pay. Consultations with senior leadership teams. If you've ever seen me say SLT, I'm not talking about speech and language therapists in this instance. I'm talking about the senior leaders in a school, your head teachers, deputy head, SEND coordinator, head of governors, who else is there? Business manager, assistant head if they've got one. Sometimes heads of departments, so sometimes Key Stage 1 coordinator, Key Stage 2 coordinator, early years foundation stage coordinator if it has a nursery attached. And if you are looking to approach private nurseries, a consultation with the nursery manager. Now, this isn't about asking for some of their precious time and selling to them straight off the bat. This is about offering them something of value to show them how they could deal with one of their critical challenges with your support this year. And we will talk about what I've identified as 7 of the most critical challenges for schools and nurseries this year in this training. Audits and samples I've put in here because I've actually now got people selling products in the Approaching Schools Academy. Keisha recently sold her diverse books to 70 schools, and she did that with samples. So she actually sent her books out on loan, got them back, had a consultation with staff around that before selling her book bundles. So you'll see that different offers work better for different types of services. And you may be wanting to get lots of different types of services in. So you might be wanting to offer a package where you get in curriculum lessons and clubs in, and maybe you're wanting to work with the teachers as well. Some people offer teacher CPD, some people offer teacher wellbeing days. Lots of things you could be doing for teachers, and we'll come on to that in just a moment as well. So make a note of what you think might work well as a precursor to selling your course. Val, it says our meeting will end in 10 minutes. Are you able to do something around that?
Hold on. Yeah, let me check. That's strange. Okay, carry on. Let me check.
Okay, fab. Because I think I've got more to say than 10 minutes. Um, Getting a response. So here are 5 reasons based on the challenges that most providers I've worked with have found up until they've joined the Approaching Schools Academy or joined a challenge. These are the 5 reasons that they have struggled. And maybe you've struggled in the past. Who here feels like schools and nurseries are ghosting them? Let me know in the chat box. Here are some reasons they likely didn't respond. And again, this is based on scenarios when I was doing my research back between 2017 and 2019 with dance teachers. What I found was, and it's not their fault, they didn't know this stuff, but they were talking all about themselves at the beginning of emails and letters. So big, meaty paragraphs of blocks of text, all about yourself and your CV and your experience and your qualifications and your insurance and your policies and your DBS checks and that time you were a backing dancer on TV and lots of different things. And this experience has its place, but not at the beginning of your first communication with schools and nurseries. Okay. You are better off grabbing a key decision maker's attention from the get-go because apparently we only have 8 seconds to maintain somebody's attention online. That's how long we've got these days. We've almost got the brains of goldfishes. So do yourself a favor, don't make the beginning of your marketing all about you. That might sound a bit funny, but in marketing, it's all about them. Schools and nurseries, head teachers, nursery managers, they know they've got problems. They don't know who you are yet, so they don't really care about you, but they know they've got problems. So we're better off addressing those. I'll talk to you about what those are in just a moment. Cold pitching. So a lot of the time they're just trying to sell what they do, trying to sell dance. Have you ever just tried to sell modern foreign languages, tried to sell PE? Has it worked for you? Has it only really caught the low-hanging fruit, the schools that were already looking for a replacement PE teacher, for example? We tend to find that cold pitching doesn't work. Schools just don't have time. They see that it's a sales email and they switch it straight off. One of my Approaching Schools Academy members used to be in charge of filtering out the really highly valuable emails and letters and getting rid of the rest and only passing those on to key decision makers to decide who they were going to choose for clubs and things like that next term. And I said, oh, would you have binned a letter the way that I'm teaching you to do it? And she said, oh, no, I think I would have passed that one on to the senior leadership team. That's very different to what I used to get in my inbox. So that was interesting. But yeah, trying to sell in that initial email is going to get it deleted. It's going to get your letter put in the bin. They haven't got time to speak to you on the phone if you haven't built connection first. And this is coming on to my next point. A lot of them weren't building trust. You need key decision makers to trust you and your business before they're ever going to buy from you. And you want to start building that trust from the get-go. It's a lot harder to do it. It's a lot harder to do it in 2024. There's a lot of skepticism out there. There's also a lot of offers out there. There's a lot of businesses out there. You need to be doing it from the beginning. There are lots of different ways to build trust. You can communicate with authority. That's one of them. And I'll talk about that in this webinar as well. Other things you can be doing is kind of showcasing your results, so showcasing any kind of case studies, testimonials and things like that. So we'll talk about that today as well. No reason to respond right now. So this isn't simply about applying some scarcity or urgency. It's not about, although we do this, it's not about offering limited spaces and giving a deadline. We do put those things in our communications. However, they need a reason to respond now. Why would they go back to you now if they think you're probably going to follow them up, if they think you're probably going to send them another campaign later in the year, if they think I'm pretty busy now, but I might do it after Christmas? What reasons are you able to give them to do it now that actually benefit them? You know, a really valuable reason why the teachers and children would want to take up your offer now. So if you weren't given a reason, that was another reason for people ghosting you. And not following up. Who here is guilty of not following up? This is probably most people that I work with. Either don't do it or don't do it enough. So let me know in the chat box if that is you. It's okay. We all forget to follow up. We all let life get in the way. We're all super busy. We all have mindset wobbles in our business as well. We all have that little bit of fear, like, what if they don't want it? What if they think I'm pestering them? That is a huge issue among children's activity providers. They worry that they're pestering schools. But the fact of the matter is, what you're offering is very targeted. So long as it solves a problem for somebody in that school, it's valuable. But again, as long as we're not kind of cold pitching and trying to take up too much of their time before we've built a relationship with them first. So not following up is huge. And at this time of year, and with the upcoming changes, you know, various different things that are going to be implemented over this academic year and beyond in terms of what schools need to have in place, you're going to want to stay relevant as a children's activity provider. You're going to want to make sure that your marketing is still hitting the point. So there are people that took my Approaching Schools challenge way back in 2019, have already learnt my methods, who will come on the challenge again and again. They'll come on it 3 times a year for the last 5 years because there's always things are always evolving. You'll always hear new insights of what's happening right now in education and also what's working well for children's activity providers that are working in education. And I've done a lot of research into this through multiple sources, and I've identified 7 critical challenges that I'm willing to bet everybody here on this training can solve at least one of these problems in some way. You can provide some kind of support on their journey to solving these challenges. So let me know in the chat box, and I think this is going to be everybody that's here. Number 1 is curriculum and attainment. This is what's going to keep you relevant. Think about how you align with the curriculum. I'm pretty sure everyone here helps schools and nurseries and the pupils that attend their lessons with attainment in some way. You are helping with progression of learning. Now, even if you are looking to deliver extracurricular activities, there is still huge value to a school if they can kind of justify any spend or who they're getting in front of the children if you also align with curriculum objectives, okay? Because it's something that's going to go a long way to help them with their reporting and when they've got to report to various different inspections, Ofsted if they're in England, for example. There's still huge value in you making sure that you align with the curriculum, even if what you want to offer is solely extracurricular. So that's something that Karen, who is our curriculum expert in the Approaching Schools Academy, helps our providers with every month is staying relevant and aligned with the curriculum. This is not just for your marketing, by the way. This is so that when you go in and deliver a demonstration lesson, you are actually showing that you are covering some of that key criteria for learning. And it's also when you go in and talk to a senior leader about your ongoing provision that they're going to be investing in, it's about making sure that it's clear what you align with. So one of my Approach Schools Academy members started really improving her conversion rate at these meetings by making sure that she sent along a topic list, a list of topics that she could cover, for example. So it's going to be a big one for most of you, most probably, but you may be able to solve one or the other, or one or more of the other critical challenges that I've identified. So budgets and funding, we hear it all the time, don't we? And people always ask me, you know, do schools really have a budget for this? And the thing is, schools have to keep the lights on. Schools have to be teaching a broad and balanced curriculum, and they do have budgets. Local authority maintained schools get their budgets from the local authority. Academy Trust schools get their budgets from essentially the government. It's one of the government agencies. Um, Nurseries, private nurseries, are obviously getting bums on seats. They're fee paying, same with private schools and prep schools. We know that funding is often a challenge, but we also know there are pots of ring-fenced funding that lots of providers are going into schools under. And then, of course, there's always parent pay sessions in both schools and nurseries as well, if you're doing kind of extracurricular. But is there a way that you could help a school or a nursery with their budgets and funding in some way? Can you save a school time, money, and effort by doing things your way with you? In some cases, you could even make a school money. So hiring a hall might not be much, but you're making a school money by hiring their hall for clubs. Some people I know go into nurseries and the resources they sell, they get a commission back on. So the nursery can make money that way. Okay. So there are a few different things here where you might actually be able to help support the issues around budgets and funding. So have a think, is that you? You're not going to be all 7 of these, but you might be 1 or 2 of these. Number 3, safeguarding and well-being. Well-being we know is going to be top priority. We also know that the new government coming in have kind of pledged to have like well-being coordinators in schools, in secondary schools, for example. We know that safeguarding is a big issue. We hear about it all the time. Can you help with that challenge around safeguarding and well-being in some way? Now, I'm always of the opinion that no matter what niche you are in the children's activity sector, you are in the business of helping children with their well-being in some way. You know, some of you might be physical well-being as well as emotional, mental health and well-being. But think about it. Are you helping pupils with their well-being in some way, and can you communicate this in your next campaign? Number 4, staff retention and recruitment. We know Labour are going to do a big recruitment drive, and they've got some interesting ideas about how they're going to do that. Various different incentives. Work from home, I think, was the most recent one for teachers, and that would be a PPA thing. But staff retention. I was a former teacher. Some of you were probably former teachers. And if you were a former teacher, there'd be a reason you left to set up your own business. Most of us have similar reasons why we left teaching to set up our own businesses. And we know that staff retention is still a huge issue. We know teachers are leaving the profession in droves, sadly. How can you help a teacher? I'm going to move on to 5 because it's kind of the same thing. Staff workload and well-being are issues as well for teachers. So can you help ease staff workload in some way? Can you help with retention? Can you help with teacher well-being? There may be things that you do in your business that you hadn't even realized had that greater impact on a teacher staying or leaving in a school. Because maybe you help upskill class teachers in their confidence, knowledge, and skills by delivering amazing lessons for the children. Maybe you do provide CPD for them. Maybe you do provide well-being days for them. You are directly helping that massive retention crisis that we have for teachers in schools. So you might be helping one of my yoga providers, a couple of my yoga providers, do yoga and mindfulness for teachers as well as a bolt-on offer, as well as working with the children. Is that something you could do? I think somebody said they were yoga, didn't they? Number 6, school avoidance and attendance. This is huge. We know that schools have always had criteria to hit in terms of attendance targets. But what you may not have realized, this is something that I discussed on that TEDx talk, was that the number of children avoiding school for emotional reasons has doubled since before the pandemic. We're in a huge crisis. We're in a huge young person's mental health crisis, and schools are in an attendance crisis. And the two are going hand in hand. This is what we're seeing at the moment. So if you can provide some kind of emotional intervention for children, are you going some way to improving attendance? For private nurseries, this is huge because this is how they keep going as a business. So attendance is their absolute bread and butter. Now, you may not have thought about it this way before. One of my Approaching Schools Academy graduates always talks about the fact that there's this child that will not go to nursery, but on Wednesdays, he knows he's got his dance fitness class in the morning at that nursery. Mum has no problem getting him to nursery that day. So this school avoidance problem could be happening, could be starting in nursery. So if you can help children get excited to go to school or nursery, just by nature of putting on a really fun activity, you are doing something to help support attendance. But for some of you, you might be like my mindfulness client, Jill. She actually provides intervention in secondary schools for particular children that are struggling to make sure they keep coming to school. Okay. Number seven, special educational needs support. So we also know that the new government have pledged to have earlier interventions for SENS children. We don't know exactly what that looks like. We know that, SENS parents are having huge issues at the moment with kind of the school system, how it is. So again, is it something you can support with in terms of special educational needs? Have a think about that. Let me know in the chat box if you identify with one or more of those and what critical challenge you would like to solve for a school or nursery this year. Feels good, right? Feels good to be actually going in and helping affect change, not simply going in and making sales, which sometimes can feel a little bit awkward. If we know we're offering huge value to the school and the children by partnering with them with our business, makes the sales stuff easy, makes those conversations a lot nicer to have, doesn't it? So what's possible then? I want to inspire you next with what's been possible for business owners who have been able to form these long-term, valuable partnerships with schools and nurseries, and how you can too. So let's have a look at this. Now, typically, most providers who come to work with me say, Keris, I just want to make an extra £2,000 per month. If I could make an extra £2,000 per month, I could stop worrying about the bills. If I could just make an extra £2,000 per month, I could start scaling my business with a team. Or, I could maybe franchise and scale my business that way. If I just made an extra £2,000 per month, I could start reinvesting into the business. I could develop my website, I could buy better props and resources, etc. So this is kind of the marker that I hear a lot. You might have completely different motivations. You might be looking to make more or less. It doesn't matter. But some examples here of people who did it in different niches. Now, I didn't know what niches were going to be sitting in front of me tonight, but here's a little bit of a range. So Nikki delivers cookery and nutrition in schools and nurseries. And what's really interesting about Nikki's strategy is because it really, really helps children with their nutrition to learn cookery skills, the children that need her most are in deprived areas. Now, some people avoid schools in deprived areas because they assume they've got no money. Not always the case. Because if there are a high number of children eligible for what's known as pupil premium funding, which is ring-fenced for those particular children to benefit from in some way, then actually a school could have quite a bit of pot of money to spend on this if it falls within that remit. Again, it comes back to that kind of well-being element. But also, pupil premium can be used to fund these children coming into your clubs and things like that as well, which some people aren't aware of either. So Nikki delivers cookery and nutrition in some of the most deprived areas of her local communities, and schools that don't have as much pupil premium often going out and doing funding bids to get Nikki in. Nikki has found that since adopting this strategy, she's so full to the brim. She's already making an extra £2,000 per month because her revenue increased by 60%. She's only now taking on new work for her teachers and she's developing her team, which is amazing because it means she can grow into a bigger geographical area because she now wants to scale and reach more children who really need her because that's what it's all about for her. Jackie had a very well established drama business in the community. And it might surprise you to know that her first additional £30,000 that she made was all from clubs. So some of you might be wanting to scale quicker by delivering curriculum lessons and high value packages that include kind of PPA cover and all sorts of different things. But actually, Jackie did it initially with clubs and then she upsold for enrichment workshops and topic work and curriculum lessons and PPA cover and things like this. But that extra 30 grand per year that Jackie started making with her clubs equated to basically an extra 2.5 grand per month. And she started literally just sending out teachers. And she found she was able to build and retain a really loyal team because she was able to give them daytime work now when she did start upselling into the schools. So that was really interesting for her that it was a completely new income stream in an established business. She'd only really worked with the schools that her children were in previously. So, to be able to quickly scale up and get 9 or 10 clubs on the timetable and then start increasing the value for each of those schools by providing topic work and things like that through drama really helped Jackie to make that additional income within her first year. Kath, it's really interesting because working mostly with nurseries, for any of you that are nursery providers, modern foreign languages, I know a couple of you said you're doing French and Spanish clubs, some schools, but mainly nurseries, working with chains as well. So if you can work with a private nursery chain, or if you can work with a multi-academy trust school, you could potentially work with more than one settings on one contract. Okay. So Kath built up her business. One of her nursery chains gave her 5 sessions in the week. So she was able to build up to, I think it was 19 or 20 sessions she had on her timetable, had to hire another member of team to cope with the workload. And what was really interesting about Kath is she was really struggling beforehand until she started making this extra 2K a month because during the pandemic, loads of her nurseries shut down for good. And they didn't reopen. And we're going to start finding this again with, these various different crises that evolve. And so really, really interesting that she was able to actually build up her business with some of these strategies. So that's inspiring for anyone that's looking to work specifically with nurseries or is doing MFL in particular. Andy does coding and robotics, so essentially computer science. And for Andy, he started by contacting schools and nurseries to feed into his community classes, and he doubled them. He doubled the number of children attending his community classes, and he doubled the number of classes that he had on his schedule purely by going in and delivering these demos into schools. And sometimes he was getting paid workshops, and then he was taking up to 8 children at a time back into his community classes. Since then, he started upselling things like PPA cover, and he's been able to get some really lucrative contracts into schools that way as well. Academy Trust example, there was like 7 schools in one Academy Trust. So again, have you got academies in your area? Because they are on the rise. They have complete autonomy over their budget and they get their budgets in September, which is different to the local authority schools. So local authority schools have their new financial year in April. Academy trusts have it in September, which means spending decisions are being made right now if you have academies in your area. And Lisa, this was really interesting. So Lisa does STEM and she teaches fun science in schools. I think it's a really exciting time to be getting STEM into schools because of the kind of technological evolution that we're in at the moment. And Lisa was concerned about living in rural Wales and there being lots of Welsh medium schools that typically need you to be able to speak Welsh to deliver all your subjects. But Lisa went in and delivered such amazing demonstrations that suddenly the language wasn't an issue and they still wanted to get her in. So this just demonstrates the power of offering something of value first to showcase what a school or nursery would be investing in before pitching, before selling your services. Okay. Lisa is fully booked now till 2025. I caught up with her the other day. She said, I'm really busy, but I'm absolutely loving it. Again, these were the strategies she followed. She was getting fun science into schools. We were looking at things like British Science Week, but then we started looking a little bit outside the box at things like World Book Day. And that's how Lisa started to build up her business on a workshop basis. But now lots of regular clubs and different things going on until next year. So hopefully that has inspired you and given you some insights about what is possible. Now, obviously, people can make a lot more money. Some people might not want to make as much. This is generally what people tell me. So I would love to do a bit of a Q&A in a moment. Please pop your questions in the chat box for me right now while I talk about how myself and Pebble can support you a little bit further. Just make sure you are muted just so there's no background sound as well. This is something that I like to leave everybody with at the end of my trainings. You might still be worrying about whether schools really can afford to get you in this year and whether you can really afford to give away some kind of demonstration or assembly or consultation before bridging the gap and making that sale. And that's this. When they see the value, they will find the budget. We've seen this happen time and time again, not just with Lisa. I mentioned that Nikki as well. Her school went cold on her. She didn't know why this school hadn't got back to her when they gave her great feedback. They were going away and doing a funding bid for 5 grand. They handed her the whole 5 grand for this contract to work across the school. When they see the value, they will find the budget, but we can't just be going in with cold pitches this academic year. It's just not, we can't compete with, how precious they are going to be over their budgets this year. We have to show them the value. And that's the reason I teach this method, because we've seen time and time again that it works. If you want some help implementing this, you need some accountability, you need a bit of motivation, you're maybe not sure what to say in your email or letter to schools and nurseries. I will help you implement this next week. So the Approaching Schools Challenge is happening again on the 30th of September, so next Monday. The link you need to register is keriskeneally.co.uk. I'm going to pop it in the chat box 1 second, because my name is interesting to spell. Oh, hang on, wait 1 sec. Let's put that to everyone. How do I put it to everyone? There we are. And if you've done it before, you are very, very welcome to do it again if you would like to, because sometimes last time people focused on schools, this time they want to focus on nurseries. Or you might be wanting to think about, how can I really make sure that I get these kind of critical challenges solved this year? So I'm going to read what you've said in the chat box. And then do keep popping your questions in. So there's an offer from me. My team are going to give you a free critique of your email or letter next week before you send it out. And there's also an offer from Pebble. So if you join Pebble before the end of October, you're going to get 3 months free on the platform, and Pebble will email you about that to get you signed up. So if you are looking to get listed and to have a booking system, then this is something that you definitely will want to explore with that offer. And Alan says curriculum attainment and budget. So those are all things that you can help with your service. Imogen says a curriculum attainment, staffing, school lunchtimes, well-being. Jen says curriculum attainment, pupil well-being. Alan, how do you approach schools, phone or email? My method is email or letter, because I didn't like cold calling in my business, because research suggests that less than 5% of schools in the UK right now are accepting these kind of cold calls. And I just find you can communicate a lot more of the value of what you do initially by sending an email or a letter. But the challenge next week is set up specifically to solve that problem of if you've tried an email in the past and haven't had a response. Jen, how many schools or nurseries do you approach at any one time? This is a really interesting one. There's no hard or fast rules on this, but whenever anyone says to me, I want to get into 3 schools, should I approach 3 schools? I always say no. You've got to approach more than 3 schools if you want to get in 3 schools, because not all of them are going to want it. Not all of them are going to be ready to buy straight away. You're going to need a consistent approach throughout the year. Now, for me in my dance business, I used to get about a 10% response rate. So if I sent 100 emails, I typically got 10 demos booked in, and I used to sell to about 5 of those schools. Those were my conversion rates back in my dance business. Been working with a lot of niches since then and developing a lot of strategies with the providers I've been working with. And I'm happy to say that my clients, most of them are getting around about 25% response rate, which is unheard of with cold email, by the way. But one of them has followed a lot of my strategies to the T and found himself with a 65% conversion rate, which is amazing. So it's something where I just want you to be aware of the volume that you may need to go for. You're going to want to make sure you're a little bit strategic and intentional about it, of course. You don't want to be spreading yourself too thin, traveling in all different directions. Not like me and my business when I found myself in 6 different towns in one day teaching dance. I don't want that to end up happening to anyone else, because I was exhausted and I had burnout. But yeah, definitely you will need to go for a few more to get the word out there in the beginning before you can afford to be a little bit more targeted with this. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. But one of my clients, Jackie, who I mentioned, she used to contact 25 schools at a time and get about 4 schools booked in each time. And she was happy with 4. She used to say, I've got this available for 4 schools. Do you want it? And they would book in. So yeah, don't feel like you have to be contacting hundreds of schools because that's not the case. You want to build up a consistent approach to sending out these campaigns all year round so that you don't have to be sending lots and lots and lots in one go. Kelly, if you approach an academy trust, would you do it via the board or the individual schools? This is so interesting, Kelly, because eventually to sell to them, of course, something's going to go in front of the board. However, every single person I've worked with that has got into Academy Trust, and the same for private nursery chains as well, has got in via one school first, who has put in a good word, and they've been able to upsell a package to the rest of the schools in the trust. So actually approaching the individual schools with your demo still works well. It's what you do the other side of that demo to build up to a sale that can benefit all of the schools within the trust. Just happens to be what people have been reporting back to me that has worked for them. Because it can be quite hard, like quite often when you email like the head office, you are getting ghosted a lot with the Academy Trust. But usually if you get a head of school that's like really interested in your subject and they pass it on to one of their subject leads, you're more likely to get the demo in, which is your foot in the door. Then you can make waves to start building relationships with other people higher up the chain. Does that make sense? This is such a good question as well. Any other questions before I love you and leave you to your evenings? You're welcome, Kelly. Well, thank you to Val and Pebble for having me in this evening. Do take Pebble up on that offer of getting 3 months free on the platform. And please do come on the challenge next week because my team are ready and raring to go. They're going to give you feedback on your tasks every single day. You're going to get to ask me questions every single evening. And we just have lots of fun. And you'll get your letter sent out by the end of the week, which means you're actually getting things done in your business for once. So hope to see lots of you there.
Chris, thank you very much for your time. This was wonderful.